Hello. I welcome you to the part one of a Daniel Hayford's lecture series on an aspect of a nation building course on the theme, the remarkable historical examples of successful nation building projects, operations, or efforts around the globe. Today's session of the lecture series focuses on Japan as one of the most recognized, remarkable historical examples of successful nation-building efforts. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, the Japanese territory is located in the region called Northeast Asia or East Asia to the east of the Eurasian continent. It is surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Sea of Okhotsk, the Sea of Japan, and the East China Sea. The territory of Japan, according to the ministry, is made up of 4 large islands, and that those islands are 1. Hokkaido, 2. Honshu, 3. Shikoku, and 4. Kyushu. The ministry has also indicated that the territory has other small islands. Ladies and gentlemen, the nation of Japan has a total land area of approximately 378,000 square kilometers, with the largest island being the one called Honshu. Honshu has a land area of approximately 228,000 square kilometers. It is, according to the ministry, the 7th largest island in the whole world. The Ministry of Japan has also indicated that the country is a mountainous one, with approximately 2/3 of it covered with forest. Most of the areas of this country are characterized by a temperate climate with 4 distinct seasons, albeit Okinawa, which is located in the south, is subtropical, and Hokkaido in the north of Japan is subarctic. The occurrence of such distinct seasons may explain why the nation of Japan is seen to be characterized by a great diversity of plants and animal life forms. Those of you who belong to the Faculty of Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Biological Sciences would like me to use the expression, Japan is rich in biodiversity. In addition to the rich biological diversity, there remain in the country of Japan a considerably large number of valuable ecological systems throughout the country. And this is such that there are 4 locations of Japanese territory called Ogasawara Islands, Shirakami-sanchi, Shiretoko, and Yakushima, which are on the UNESCO's World Heritage List. What do you think is referred to as the UNESCO's World Heritage List? Please conduct your own literature search, after enjoying this season of the lecture series, and present your findings in a form of comments. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the notable events in the history of Japan is the Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration refers to the political revolution which occurred in the year 1868. It was this revolution which led to the end of the Tokugawa shogunate, or the military government, and thereby seeing an end to the Edo, or the Tokugawa period, which spanned the year 1603 to the year 1867, and at least nominally retained control of the country of Japan to direct imperial rule under Mutsuhito, that is, the Emperor Meiji. Dear friends of Daniel Hayford, in a broader context, however, the Meiji Restoration of the year 1868 came to be associated or identified or linked with the subsequent era of major political, economic, and social change called the Meiji period, which spanned from the year 1868 to the year 1912. According to several authorities, it was the Meiji period which brought about the significant modernization and westernization of the country of Japan. In other words, history has it that after the Meiji Restoration in the year 1868, Japan underwent a considerable transformation from a feudal kind of society to a modern state as we know it today. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you do not know anything about feudal society, take note of the fact that a feudal society, according to Bradley and Taylor's publication in the year 2009, is a military-based society which is dominated by a system of reciprocated relationships between a lord and his vassal. The relationship under consideration focused on three notable things, and those things were: 1. Personal fealty, which refers to the loyalty owed by a vassal to his lord on becoming his man, or an oath taken by a vassal in which he promises to protect his lord's military, economic, and political interests. 2. Service delivery. And 3. Offering of protection. Feudal society describes a hierarchical social order which emerged in Europe in the Middle Ages based on the legal subjection of the peasantry by a landholding elite. These landholding elites were protected, sustained, and reinforced by their domination of the political and judicial systems, together with the economic mode of protection. Once upon a time, there was a man called Yasuke. He was a man of the African origin. He served as a samurai to the Japanese elderly man called Daimayo Oda Nobunaga for a period of 15 months between the year 1581 and the year 1582, during the period called Sengoku period, until Nobunaga's passing in the course of the incident called the Honnonji incident. Dear nation builders, there are limited historical records on the mighty Yasuke. Be that as it may, historians have indicated that Yasuke had African roots, as I indicated earlier. They are also sure that he was a servant who was brought from India to Japan when Alessandro Valignano came to the country of Japan. A source states that Yasuke was from the African country called Mozambique, and that in those days, Mozambique was a Portuguese colony. It has also been suggested that Yasuke was probably a Muslim. From the few accounts available to historians, the man first landed in Japan in those days when he served Jesuit Alessandro Valignano, who was the missionary at the time, or a missionary at the time. It has been long established that he remained in the country of Japan for approximately 3 years, from the 17th of August of the year 1579 to the 21st of June in the year 1582. One day, Yasuke and Alessandro Valignano went to meet Daimayo Oda Nobunaga. On that day, Nobunaga truly desired to set eyes on a black man for the very first time. Yes, you heard me. Nobunaga had not seen a black man or a dark man before this time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are told that Nobunaga was so much impressed that he chose to take the black man into his service and gave him the name Yasuke. The name Yasuke is of the Japanese stock, and that we do not know the actual African name of the gentleman. Furthermore, his date of birth, place of birth, family structure, tribe or ethnicity, and native language are unknown. In his new capacity as a samurai, Yasuke became an honored servant of Nobunaga. In addition, he was granted a house and a stipend of a considerable amount of money. And Yasuke in turn accompanied and served Nobunaga until the death of Nobunaga and was there at the Honnonji incident during which Nobunaga died. After that, Yasuke was sent back to the Jesuits, and there were no records of him from that time. Some authorities have provided us with the following stories about the first time Yasuke entered the capital and Nobunaga saw him for the very first time. There was a serious commotion among the Japanese inhabitants of the capital. The residents struggled and fought each other just to secure a glimpse of the man Yasuke. Some authorities say that the melee was so serious that the people broke the door of a Jesuit house in the process, and that it resulted in several injuries and even deaths among the Japanese. And that fateful day happened to be a great day for Nobunaga. He truly desired to set eyes upon a black man for the very first time. Therefore, he sent for him in order to see him. Father Organtino delightedly took Yasuke to Daimayo Oda Nobunaga. When Nobunaga saw a black man for the first time, he refused to believe or accept the fact that his complexion was natural and not applied later. Therefore, he made him to remove his clothes from the belt upward so that he could examine him closely. According to Valignano, because Nobunaga thought that Yasuke might have applied ink on his body, he made him take off his clothes and wash his body very thoroughly. And the result was that the more he washed and scrubbed his body thoroughly, the darker his skin turned out to be. Valignano also indicated that Nobunaga's children and nephews were at the event. They were so much fascinated by what they saw to the extent that one of Nobunaga's nephews offered Yasuke a sum of money as a gift. One source also describes Yasuke as follows. I quote, "On the 23rd of the second month, a black Amor came from the Kirishitan country. He appeared to be 26 or 27 years old, black over his whole body, just like an ox. This man looked robust and had a good demeanor. What is more, his formidable strength surpassed that of 10 men. The brethren brought him along by way of paying his respect to Nobunaga. Indeed, it was owing to Nobunaga's power and his glory that yet unheard of treasures from the three countries and curiosities of this kind came to be seen here time and again. A blessing indeed." One Father Lourenco Mexia reportedly wrote in a letter to Father Pero da Fonseca dated October 8, 1581 as follows. I quote, "The black man understood a little Japanese, and Nobunaga never got tired of talking with him. And because he was strong and could do a few tricks, Nobunaga took great pleasure in protecting him and had him roam around the city of Kyoto with an attendant. Some people in the town thought that Nobunaga might make him as Tonu, that is, Lord. Another source describes the relationship between Nobunaga and Yasuke as follows. I quote, Nobunaga-sama was accompanied by a black man who was presented to him by the missionaries and to whom he gave a stipend. His body was black like ink and he was 6 shaku 2 bu, 182.4 centimeters or near 6 feet tall. His name was said to be Yasuke. Dear friends of Daniel Hayford, from the story of Yasuke and Nobunaga, you can see a clear example of lives lived in the period of the feudal system. In order for Japan to move from a feudal kind of society to a modern nation state, we are told that the Meiji government did not stay inactive. Neither did they stay unconcerned. Instead, the Meiji government initiated reforms which led to the modernization of the political, economic, and socio-cultural systems, including the adoption of Western technologies and institutions. Furthermore, the government chose to promote or inspire or stir a strong sense of national identity in the Japanese. What do you think is the meaning of the expression national identity? Conduct some research and post your finding in a form of a comment. In the meantime, take note of the fact that it is believed that the strong sense of national identity of the people of Japan played a significantly critical role or part in its successful nation-building process. Ladies and gentlemen, you are young people with strong desire to become excellent or prominent nation builders. What do you think are some of the lessons which you can choose to learn from the example of the Japanese? I may not know what you have in mind, but I do know that some of the possible lessons which could be learned from the example of the Japanese may include the following. 1. There is a need for a people who are interested in building their country into an advanced, functioning, and excellent nation to A. Recognize a need for progress, B. Desire progress, and C. Embrace progress by striving to make the required commitment to ensure progress. 2. There is a need for an initiative to be taken, and the people involved should be helped, where and when necessary, to buy into the initiative through proper information, education, and communication. 3. Specific areas which may need significant improvement or transformation may include the political, socio-cultural, and economic systems. In the case of Africa, for example, there is the need for all citizens to recognize that nation building is not the same as building political parties. Over the past few years, Ghanaian politicians, for example, have focused more unburdened political parties than burden Ghana into a venerable nation. Some major politicians and their followers have chosen to put the interests of their political parties and their tribes or ethnic groups above the national interest. In some way, it appears that there is no national interest in the political arena of Ghana, and that what we have had up till now is merely the interest of tribes, persons, families, political parties, and those of the party supporters and investors. Ladies and gentlemen, the day that we choose to make a move toward becoming a venerable nation, our political system will be transformed in such a way that we will not have a situation where natives of Eastern region, Ashanti region, and Volta region will consistently vote exclusively for a political party because it is I, their party, their choices party, and I. They must vote for it even if that party presents a goat or an inferior candidate as a flag bearer. In those days, people will not fail to vote just because their own party or the party of their family, tribe, or ethnic group did not present a good candidate. Instead, they will choose to vote for the right candidate even if that candidate is not a flag bearer of their party or the party of their family, tribe, or ethnic group. Today in Africa, we can afford to see that Ghana in particular is building political parties and happily celebrating tribal or ethnic and partisan politics instead of building and joyfully celebrating a venerable nation called Ghana. This is a painful and a very shocking moment of our history which have been birthed by wrong seeds sown before and shortly after the day of the political independence in the year 1957. We truly need a complete transformation in our current political system. Socioculturally, I can afford to say that the day Ghana chooses to become a venerable nation, when you travel to any part of the country, you will feel at home and nobody will mock you or look down on you due to your family, tribe, ethnic group, religion, or gender. Ladies and gentlemen, economically speaking, I know that one day soon, the Republic of Ghana will become a venerable nation. On that day, members of a political party will not choose to buy the US dollars or any other foreign currency just to make a political party unpopular and thereby setting the nation back in the process. And just for political gains. On that day, a politician or a political party will not cause the collapse of promising businesses, firms, corporate bodies, or business enterprises for family, partisan, or tribal gains. On that day, a politician or a political party will not cause the collapse of promising businesses, firms, corporate bodies, or business enterprises for family, partisan or tribal gains. In those days, people will be careful how they lease land for mining, and they will ensure that appropriate monitoring mechanisms are in place to ensure that the water bodies and biodiversity will not be destroyed recklessly via legal and illegal mining activities. What do you think? Lesson number 4. Where and when it is necessary to do so, a people embarking on nation building should choose to adopt useful technologies and institutions which they do not have. Of course, the people should also put measures in place to help them to create superior technologies and to improve upon such institutions. Continuous improvement should be the order of the day. Lesson number 5. There should be strong sense of national identity. And the sense of identity should be strong enough to enable the people to put the interests of the nation above all other interests. Ladies and gentlemen, it feels great to have you as a participant of this session. That is the part 1 of a Daniel Hayford's lecture series on the theme, the remarkable historical examples of successful nation building projects, operations, or efforts around the globe. Do remember to present or post your questions and comments. And see you during the next lecture series. Bye.